right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are, another episode of BOPCAST. Here today, we have Brianne Fleming. I connected with you through Stefano, I think, is how I found you originally, or how we connected, because you said something about him or me being on his podcast, I think, the How So podcast, which I should shout out, that, I hope you're listening to this episode. You better keep making episodes, because that podcast is really good.
I know. Get on it, Stefano. This is all because of you.
Yeah, exactly, buddy. Like, and it was so cool being interviewed on that podcast. But so we're here. It's probably been like, I think I've been following you maybe like 6 months now, maybe a year or so. I don't know. Time just been going.
We don't know what day it is anymore.
I don't know anymore either. But thank you for joining us on here and allowing my listeners to kind of get get to see who you are and what you do. And I like that, I almost like that we have to do the Zoom, because, it doesn't feel weird to interview somebody who's in Florida like yourself, or, anywhere else in the world, really. So, thank you for being on. And if you could, just give people a little bit of context of who you are and what you do, and we'll probably just go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for being on here. I feel like this has been a long time in the making. We should all you've been on Stefano's. Now I got to have you on my podcast. I'm on yours.
I'd love to. Let's do it.
Yeah. So I'm Brianne. By day, I guess you could say, I teach online courses for the University of Florida on branding and social media and marketing. And I also have started a freelance company where I do branding for my own clients, but really what I've been trying to do is brand my own podcast and my own blog, and I also sell my own online courses about branding and social media and marketing. Before that, I graduated from college and I was climbing a corporate ladder. That pretty much was always my plan. It was just the thing that I felt like I always was going to get thrown into is, okay, graduate, go work for a big corporation. So I was always doing marketing in-house for big brands. Most notably, I worked for Orange Theory Fitness at their corporate office for almost 4 years and really helped get them off the ground a bit. But I decided to take the leap and do my own thing and work with my own clients and start my own blog. And it took about a year of soul searching after leaving the corporate world to figure out what my niche was, what I was going to blog about. Do I even start a podcast? Where do I begin? And really what I found was that I started a blog that was focused on just marketing. And then I started one that was focused just on pop culture, which is pretty much my passion, but I always thought it was just for fun. So I had these two different blogs and almost two different personalities that I was trying to create. And I was just driving myself crazy trying to make the professor marketing content over here and the fun.
I'm having the same dilemma right now. So that's so convenient that you said that.
Yeah. And I just felt like I was creating two different versions of myself. I had 3 different Instagram accounts. I was like, what is going on? So one day I just decided to sort of combine the two. So now on my podcast and in my content, I teach people about marketing, but through the lens of pop culture. So it's really been what I've done to make me feel like I'm not disjointed all over the place with my content, but I feel the most like myself when I can present content in this way, instead of being like, oh, I'm a professor and I teach marketing and I'm an influencer. And no, I just want to talk about music and other nostalgic things in pop culture and find the marketing lessons there.
Yeah. Did you find, so through that, did you find a lot more marketing, I guess, tactics that fit into pop culture that you didn't already know about? Or did you kind of like see a couple connections and then run with it? Or like, I would like to kind of know the process of like trying to, because it can't, like it when you put it together in a really concise way, and I like how you do it, but it doesn't seem like it's easy to, find those connections. So
yeah, I didn't notice how many marketing lessons are really all around us in pop culture. It wasn't until I wrote this one post about the Backstreet Boys, my first love, if you will. They released a new album in 2019, and I compared what the promotion for that album was like compared to when they released their album in 1999, Millennium, one of the biggest albums of all time. I Want It That Way is on that album. So I just, as I was seeing them promote this new album, I just thought back to how different it was than when I went and I drove to Walmart to get my copy versus, oh, I have it right here
Yep.
on Spotify, and there was social media all around it. And it was so different. So I just felt naturally inspired to write that. And I ended up sharing that article in a Backstreet Boys fan group that I'm in on, on Facebook. And this other girl, Danielle, if you're listening, Danielle, thank you. She saw it, and she had a podcast where she helps Etsy makers, people who have handmade crafts. She has a whole membership model where she helps them promote and sell their online crafts. And she's a huge Backstreet Boy fan also, and it's kind of part of her brand personality. So she had me on her podcast to relay some of these marketing messages about that album to her audience of craft makers and handmade business owners. And it wasn't until then that it actually clicked, like, oh, maybe there's something different here. Instead of me trying to have a podcast about business and marketing, just like it
Well,
seems
everybody,
like a lot
right?
of people
Everybody
do.
has the business and marketing podcast, and
Yeah.
right. So it's like if you can, that's what we're I think finding too. And I know you can speak on this is like the originality behind it. Like when a client or possible client, whoever, really anybody, it doesn't have to even be a client, but comes to me and
Yeah.
says, "Hey, I want to start this podcast." The first thing I asked, like, but beyond like why are you doing this and what your goal is like, what is the niche? Because
Yeah.
it's and this is something we struggle with, not even with just marketing, but literally anything when it comes to business is
Yeah.
like trying to like fill this broad need when we want to go niche. So but I think so
Yeah.
now the niche is you don't even have to really focus on that. It's just like be original. That's your
Yeah.
niche and the originality behind it. So I love that you capitalized on your originality instead of separating them.
Thank you. Yeah, I know it sounds cheesy, but it's almost just like be more of yourself. Like
Yeah.
I felt like for the longest time I had to put on this corporate hat, or that I needed to be this professor version of myself. And I'm like, I just want to talk about the Backstreet Boys and how they promoted their album. And after I was on Danielle's podcast, it was like the most fun conversation I had ever had. She's a total fangirl too. And there was just this synergy. And I'm like, there might be something here. If I can look for more examples of this in album sales, or on reality TV shows, or in GIFs and memes and all these different things in pop culture, if I can find those marketing takeaways, I think I could have something really unique for my podcast and my content. So that's really how it all happened.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I love seeing it. I love seeing your content and like you
Thank
relating it. Like
you.
I don't obviously like I don't know all of the references and I don't
I
know the
know.
details, but it's like it's funny because as a DJ, like I know this, a lot of this music,
Yeah.
just being requested and just you have to know if you're a DJ, you have to kind of know it all. So,
Yeah.
but I love like I knew we were gonna touch on this, but like I love '90s. The rap and like hip hop that I make is
Oh
probably
yeah.
more lyrical / kind of '90s boom bap type of stuff rather than it is new age. I like to kind of mix those. But I've
Mhm.
also been a musician. I've also played all different types of music. Jazz being like the start, the foundation for like almost any musician. So it's like
Yeah.
so
Oh,
funny to to like have somebody else who really cares about that time period too. And obviously I
mhm.
love the '70s. I love the '80s too. But
Yeah.
really, like, if you grab, I mean, I'm a ska fan, like Sublime is my favorite band. I love that, like, those little niche genres in the '90s where, like, punk, you
Mhm.
could have been in college for longer than punk lasted, So it's like,
Yeah.
for real, like,
And
it's
like
so crazy.
grunge and
But yeah, grunge,
mhm.
exactly, is really
Yeah.
a better word for that. But yeah, so, but what is your, was it you growing up on all this music that kind of got you to be, I don't want to say upset. I think you would consider
I
yourself
am so,
obsessed.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm obsessed with it as well. So but yeah, what was,
Yeah.
I assume it wasn't like one song that you listened to you're automatically hooked to that whole genre.
Right. Gosh, yeah. I feel like my most vivid memories of growing up have to do with music. I mean, even when it came to my friend's mom would drive us to school every day, and we had the Spice Girls album playing on repeat every day on the way to school. And then I got into Hanson, and then later, you know, come 98, 99, it was just the boom of boy bands, Britney, Christina, pop divas. It was like I was 10 years old, 9 going on 10 in 1999. It was like, you know, that right age where I wasn't too young to not get it, or I wasn't like all the way in my teenage years where I already liked someone else. I was like right at that almost like moldable age where I would
Oh, it's
just
perfect.
take
You can
in
just
whatever.
suck right into it. Like, just like, it's like the
Yeah.
Jonas Brothers effect, or, you know, obviously the
Right.
Beatles effect, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah. The timing was
you have
just
nothing
perfect.
else in your life to like hold on to. So this is everything,
Yeah.
which you gotta
Yeah.
love. Cause like, you know, hey, listen, like actors and actresses, like they're great and people love them too and idolize them. But like, I think
Mm-hmm.
musicians and the idolization of musicians is like nothing
Yeah.
else. But yeah,
Yeah,
back to
it was just the right timing. Like I was like, all right, this is the period I'm growing up in. This is what's on TRL. This is what people are talking about. This is my era. And really, I think the marketing angle and my interest in marketing that led to my career also was influenced by music, because I had this tradition every Saturday, every other Saturday. My cousin and I would go to the mall. My dad would give me $20, and I would buy a CD and a magazine. So it was like Tiger Beat, Teen Beat, 17, Cosmo Girl, all those teeny bopper magazines. And, you know, they would be filled with ads and articles and photography that I would just pour over. There was no social media, so I just became fascinated with content at the time, but it was magazine content. So I knew I wanted to get into writing, into, you know, I always really loved like visual communication, layout design, graphic design. I think that all stemmed from growing up reading teeny bopper magazines. So it just all kind of fit together.
How do you feel about the transition now of like kids might still go to the mall, but of getting those just on their phone in front of their face now? And like you being a
Mm-hmm.
marketer, you're definitely obviously like you're in this world. So, you know, what like do you think, is it, I don't know if it's better or worse. I know it's different, but
Yeah.
I think it's better in the sense that the quantity, you know, is like, but then obviously as quantity increases, then quality usually goes down. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, how do you feel about the girls that were your age now and like what they're seeing, like that type of
Yeah.
transition?
I mean, you bring up the Jonas Brothers. I kind of am seeing that boy band craze in a different way playing out with the Jonas Brothers. And for me, going to the mall and going and looking through all the magazines was such an experience, to the point where my cousin would get one and then I would get one, and then we would look at all the posters inside and we would trade for the right Backstreet Boy that she had but I wanted. And it was just like this bonding
It was like,
experience.
yeah, I was gonna say the experience of it is like the whole thing. Like you don't really
Mhm.
necessarily, you still like the magazine no matter what, but
Right. Yeah, it was just so much more hands-on. So I think what we can kind of compare it to with the Jonas Brothers in a way to add an experience to their music is, you know, they have TikTok challenges now with their songs and all these different ways that you can take a song or take their music and create an experience around it. So I think experiences are still happening thanks to TikTok and,
true.
you know, with video content. I think they're being a lot more creative with how they're, when they launch their music and share their music, they're also adding these experiential aspects to it. So it creates that for people.
Yeah, no, I agree. And is
Yeah.
there anything that you found when you were making these connections between like the pop culture and the marketing? Like, is there any like one thing that really stood out to you? I know like maybe off the top of your head, it might be difficult to pin down, you know, something, but is there something that like, I'm curious if what, you know, personally it was
Mm-hmm.
maybe the most surprising to you or.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say one thing I always end up bringing things back to is the sitcom Friends. I mean, I think
Oh
even
yeah.
Friends has made a victory lap with this new
It
generation with
always does.
Gen
It's like
Z.
Converse shoes, I feel like at this point, like.
Yeah, it's like the classic show. And Friends ended in 2004, which was the same year that Facebook came out. And it's just like this time capsule of interactions and conversations pre-internet, pre-social media. And I feel like there's still somehow always a connection with how we interact with digital media that I relate back to friends in some way. So I've noticed that a lot. What else? I just think there's a lot of similarities with how we use digital media that compares to traditional media. There's this guy I follow, his name is Matthew Kobach. He always says, if you want to be a better writer and write better tweets and social media comments, go look at old magazine ads. Like the copy is still there. It's still the same. It's
The
just that
hook,
the
right? And the hook is so
medium,
important now. Yeah.
yeah, it's like the medium has changed, but still,
The
you're still talking
principles.
to people. Yeah, you're still talking to people, trying to get their attention, trying to get them to either stop scrolling through their phone or to stop flipping through a magazine. It's that same effect. So it's just delivering that content on a different medium, but you still, yeah, like you said, have those principles to attract people to your content.
What's your favorite platform for maybe for, I don't know if your favorite platform for marketing and your favorite platform in general is the same,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm curious of what
Yeah.
you, or maybe what you feel most comfortable with creating content for.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like a flavor of the month with me, honestly.
I
Like I
feel you.
bounce
Hey, well,
back
there's
and
new
forth.
ones popping up, and not that
Right?
people think that TikTok wasn't around. TikTok's been around for a long
Yeah.
time, but
It's exhausting with just how much there is to keep up with.
yeah.
I mean, I teach social media, so I have to know what I'm talking about and try to get ahead of these trends and everything. Honestly, I kind of slept on Twitter forever, and I have gotten really into Twitter recently. I like it not the most, but I like it a lot because I feel like it challenges me most as a writer, like to have a fire tweet that people are going to want to retweet and like, and you have these, you don't really rely on visuals as much as with Instagram, and you have your character constraints. I just think it really challenges me as a writer to think of something concise and creative and to format it properly, and it's
How do you
just
feel
all you have are the words.
about them adding characters, which they did, I guess, like 2 years ago now, a year
Yeah,
ago,
yeah, they're up to 280, and
280,
you can
right? Yeah.
really add threads. You can add
That's
additional
what a lot
threads.
of people do. That's like the Trump
Yeah,
version. Like everybody's like is doing that now. I feel like making it like all these like list of things, which I
right.
really are cool too, really, because you can
They
do
are.
that kind of like, here's what I'm talking about, and here's the 10 things, and then retweet the ones
Exactly.
you like.
I found when or I saw this person's tip the other day on Twitter. He said a rule of Twitter is never promote your own content or share your own writing. I'm like, this is
Like
weird. Like,
that's like
what do I
LinkedIn
do?
too, a little bit.
Yeah. So I've had that in the back of my mind, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe I don't share my blog post of the top 5, photo editing apps or whatever it might be. Maybe I start off a tweet and then I make a thread, and that's your top 5 is in your 5 tweets. So I've definitely noticed if I try to share a link to a blog post, you always have to design for the platform that you're on. So if people are on Twitter, they don't necessarily want to bounce off and read your article. They want to stay within Twitter. Or if they're on Instagram, you have to
There's not
edit
even
your
any native
content.
links in Instagram. Like you can't even click a link.
Right.
Like only you get one link. Instagram's like, hey, this entire brand, you have one link. That's all you
Yeah.
get.
Which is why with podcasts, I'm so glad you do video, because you can format it and get people to watch it natively within Instagram instead
That's
of just
I know
texting.
that's like, it's like a no-brainer. Like I offer, like, my packages do have audio only for sure, and I think I am an audio guy and I'm an audiophile, and I've been that way for a
Yeah.
while, and I'm not visual at all. I have to hire people to design everything for me.
Really?
Yes, I can't do
Wow.
it. I can't do, like, I can promote like it took me 2 years of making clips from this podcast to even get a presentable. Like I'm trying to train myself.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm
Well,
so
you're doing
focused.
a great job.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And people can go to my podcast Instagram and see the evolution of how bad the clips were.
Oh no.
And I made clips for clients that didn't look good either. And this is why I have a
Yeah.
business now, so I can hire people.
Yeah.
But
It's a
anyway, I
challenge.
guess like I was so focused on the audio, but I realized that the video portion is, if you could see a human face, like I'm gonna probably scroll past an audio only podcast clip, but a
Mhm.
video one, like I don't care how bad the quality or how good the quality is, like I'm gonna probably stop, especially if it has
Yeah.
subtitles, and watch that video. So
Mhm.
100%, like going off what you said, like to have it with video, and then being able to do the widescreen for the LinkedIn, the little bit for the Instagram, the tall for the stories, like yeah, I mean, there's so much. That's why like I've been like quoting, like trying to work with people to build out podcasts and stuff, of like I can't even handle more than like two, like without
Yeah.
hiring out. It's like, because like there's so much when it comes, and like you probably know, obviously this, of like when you're trying to even make a small video for Instagram, how long that can take, like. And
Mhm.
also like another thing I saw recently, it was like how long people take to make a post. Do you like plan your content out, or do you kind of just make it impromptu?
I wish I planned it out. If I am working with a client or something, I definitely try to plan things out. But for me, I kind of just post whenever inspiration strikes, because I found if I force myself to post a certain thing, and I then the content itself feels forced, and I'll roll with an idea that I didn't really love just because I feel like I had to post it that day. So I kind of just instead try to schedule moments in my day where I go for a walk, or I disconnect, and that's how it goes. That's when all your ideas
Mm-hmm.
come to mind, when you're fully disconnected. So I try to just let whatever comes to me and post in the moment. Especially with pop culture, I'm always looking at what people are talking about. Is it Tiger King? Is it this? Is it that? And post in that moment while things are still timely and relevant.
Yeah, I've been doing that. I've been trying to discover and conquer LinkedIn recently. So I've been getting on calls with people who are like really good at creating content for that platform, and then like I kind of trade them Instagram knowledge, and they help me with LinkedIn. And
Mm-hmm.
with LinkedIn, it's like the more, it's funny because the more like I feel like the less you plan the post, the better it is. Like if you just kind of do that on the spot and like just use
Yeah.
your, like, because then you get the best emotion. Like when I write a song, like I don't think about the lyrics, like they just happen. Like it's the next word comes and that's it. Because that's my
Yeah.
full, like my body's just telling me, all right, this is how you feel right now. Like put it down on the paper. So like if you take that to like content and posting, like if you kind of believe in that style,
Mm-hmm.
that's when I back to like what you said about it being forced. Like it really, like you could feel that when you're listening to it, or when you're
Yeah.
reading the content.
Yeah.
But somebody who is really good, Side Gig Central,
Oh
who,
yeah, it's my
yeah,
girl. I've been on her podcast.
yeah,
Yeah,
I saw
Elena.
that and I listened to that episode. Her
Oh,
posts are like crazy. Like
stories.
they're
Yeah.
like yeah, and like sometimes, like I'll be completely honest, like she's a great person. Like I don't always read them just because it's a lot, but I know it's
Yeah.
just all value in there for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Oh
think
yeah.
I could be wrong about this, but it seems like she kind of like plans them and like structures them a little bit. And so
Mm-hmm.
like I think there's something to be said about both those
Yeah.
sides. And there's one thing that is definitely like 100% a factual, is if you do consistently post, whether it's in the moment or not, if you do
Yeah.
consistently post, that is the best way to do
Mm-hmm.
anything on any platform. I feel like it's just
Oh
that.
yeah.
But like that's like drilled into everybody's heads. Like everybody says on every podcast, consistency, and like I
Yeah.
suck at that. Like podcasts, like clips I can kind of do, but on my personal one, like when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
music, like I suck at it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
damn, I gotta get this down.
No, you've got it, but I think it's good to just have a couple ideas in your back pocket, because we're not going to be on our A game creatively all day every day. So I think it's taking the pressure off yourself to do that. One tip that I heard, it's actually this book that I love. It's called Stories That Stick by Kendra Hall. And we always hear, that's another term, we always hear storytelling. And there's this other author named Donald Miller. He always talks about having a hero to your story. And that's like old school with Star Wars, and where they teach the hero's journey and everything. And Kendra Hall, her advice is refreshing. She says that stories don't need heroes, they just need characters. So even for me, when I've shared that story about me going to the mall with my cousin and getting my magazines and like having that nostalgic story, there's no real hero to that. It's just, oh, we just had fun at the mall, and this is why I am the way that I am. So I think if we take pressure off ourselves to find these big heroic stories and get inspiration in those little moments throughout our day, I think our content will come much more naturally.
Yeah, and then that leads to less of like trying to force anything too. Is if
Yeah.
you could just like, that is just the truest version of how you came up, was like that
Hmm.
mall story. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
and we don't have to. There's a lot of old guard like mentality that it really doesn't. Not that it doesn't exist anymore, but it almost doesn't work. Like, I think in the formalities too, a
Hmm.
lot of that like corporate philosophy and like, cookie cutter type, like people kind
Yeah.
of want, like, if I'm working with a company, like, dude, I'm wearing a t-shirt, bro. Like,
Yeah.
if y'all don't want to work with me because I'm wearing a t-shirt, then please go get somebody else, because that's
Right.
like, we're already not going to work good together, right?
Hmm.
So it's like that type of thing where I think there's a lot of shifts happening, especially like, you're a perfect example of somebody who left corporate and then kind of went to do more. When you teach a class, like, I assume you have some freedom of, what you get to, teach them. And then when you have
Yeah.
your own clients, that's full freedom. Like, that's your business.
Hmm.
Like, you're a perfect example of that. And I think more people that have or opting towards that transition.
Hmm.
And then it's kind of shifting the narrative, because corporate companies are hiring freelancers who are
Hmm.
wearing t-shirts in their freaking closet,
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, you just need to get people to act like more of themselves. I think, like I said, we
Yes.
all feel this pressure to fit in a certain mold, but if you're going to be more creative in a t-shirt and just feeling like you, like that's how you're going to do your best work. So I think we all put so much pressure on ourselves to be super professional and again fit in this mold when it doesn't hurt or it doesn't help anyone.
What made you want to leave that, the corporate, setting? And
Hmm.
was it like one day that you had was like, I can't do this anymore? Or was it more of just like, okay, I'm a plan to get out of this? And did you
Hmm.
know you were going to leave? Because I know you said that you were set on that and you had a good
Yeah.
job. It seems like
Mhm.
so.
Yeah. I mean, for me, once I started picking up the teaching and teaching online for the University of Florida, I kind of saw that as my foot in the door to start building my own thing. Because even even if I started freelancing and I started from square one, I didn't have any clients. I feel like if I didn't have the teaching, I would still feel in a way unemployed, you know? But because I had the teaching, I always felt like I had something. And because I'm teaching online and it is so flexible, it it gave me the opportunity to build simultaneously and still have some steady income and to feel like I was staying sharp and I wasn't really missing out on much from the corporate world. The other thing I started doing is I just started reading a lot more. And I was thinking to myself, man, I I hardly got the chance to just read an article every day or read books about marketing every day when I was at corporate because I'd be working till six,
It's
seven
all about the
o'clock. And then,
work. Yeah.
yeah. And I wasn't really learning a lot of new things aside from the work in that role, but I wanted to just become a better marketer and take in more information and just take that information and run with it and start my own thing.
Did your perception or the knowledge that you had on marketing and branding change when you began to teach it?
Um,
Like, did
it
you
actually,
recognize other aspects of it, I guess is what I'm saying?
I guess the biggest thing that I recognize is, hey, I can take everything I'm teaching to my students and do it for myself and get my own clients and do it for them. And that is really what gave me the courage to leave because I would teach my students this branding framework or this social media content strategy framework. And I would be preaching to them how to do this. And I'm like, why am I doing this just for one brand when I could have this freedom? I could try to do it myself and go from there. So it really gave me that epiphany to take the leap.
Yeah, that's I think it's great that you teach it too, because that's really like you said, it does keep you sharp, keeps you on your
Yeah.
toes. Like I have to know, and to know all the up to date, like I just subscribed, Stefano just sent me Morning Brew, and I just subscribed to that. I don't know if you
Oh
read that,
man.
but
No.
I it's like a morning business thing. He's like, here, subscribe, it's free. And
Yeah.
like I don't have any way to stay connected except for like LinkedIn to like the
Yeah.
modern things that are happening. And then on LinkedIn it's more of just like people's opinions about it. It's not even the real, like I just like I don't watch the news or anything either. It's like, damn, but I should be connected to this industry somehow and like keeping up. And now I'm focusing more on like podcast type of
Hmm.
publications, even though my hand is still in the marketing. I still
Yeah,
I
there's so
still
much
love that.
to learn.
But yeah, there is, and it changes on the daily too with these features.
Hmm.
And like one day Google's using transcriptions from podcasts for metadata. It's like,
Makes your
what?
brain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big concern when I left. I said, okay, am I going to stop learning things if I'm not as hands-on working for this one brand? Am I not going to be able to keep up with industry trends? And the thing that's great with my students in my classes is they teach me just as much as I teach them. Like I have a very open Facebook group for all of my students, and they'll share articles and they'll tell me about, Twitter's new feature, all of these innovations, and we all hold each other accountable. I'm just one person. I'm not claiming to know everything. So I think my students and I have this understanding that we're in this together. This field is constantly evolving, and to just have an open dialogue all the time.
Do they
So it
seem
really
to
helps.
like Instagram more than anything, or are they kind of, you know, or are they not tied to? I feel like Instagram really has a lockdown on the younger generation, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, they are on Instagram, but I think thankfully Facebook groups are keeping the younger audiences on Facebook. And also I teach master students, so I have some students who actually are in their 40s and are all about Facebook and don't know a thing about Instagram. It's
It's a
really
lot
a
of my
good.
clients too, people making podcasts who are these thought leaders in these industries, but they haven't touched those platforms yet.
Right. Yeah. I think it's just different strokes for different folks, and we're all learning. And I'm trying to figure out how I feel about the advice as far as focusing on one specific platform. I've been trying to be present a little bit on all of the platforms, but the more I think about it, I think actually to grow my blog and my podcast, I need to give Pinterest a closer look, especially
I
with
think my girlfriend was on that the other day, and I was like, I haven't
yeah.
even seen this website before. And then I'm like, wow, this is like a kind of cool. Like this is like a whole thing. How is nobody talking
Yeah,
about that? What
I
would
know.
you do? So is that, would you post, is it like a social media, but you can buy things, right? Or I
So
really
Pinterest,
don't know.
yeah, the way Pinterest describes themselves, they say they are a visual search engine. So they don't even claim to be social media. It's like Google, but you look at pretty pictures and pick, which one attracts you the most, and you click that and read the article. So it's big for like the wedding industry. You can put a ton of wedding and event planning content on there. It's also big for like recipes and cooking, but there's also a ton of content on there about how to start a blog, how to start a podcast. I would say it's, primarily a female audience, but compared to Instagram, like you were just saying, Instagram makes it really hard to share links, where
Yeah.
Pinterest is a search engine and people are always looking for and grabbing links. So you write your content based on certain
Is the
keywords.
SEO on that? Yeah, I was gonna say SEO is
Yeah.
probably huge on there. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
so it
optimizing.
can drive a ton of traffic, which is what I'm looking for. And I'm not really finding that Instagram is driving me traffic. Twitter just told me not to share my own work. I'm like all over the place. So I think Pinterest is going to be where I try to
I would
focus more.
definitely look at LinkedIn too, just because the
Yeah.
organic outreach on LinkedIn is ridiculous. It
Yeah.
Your entire audience sees if your post is good, your entire audience will see it, which never
Yeah.
happens. But then, like, I'm talking to like a friend of mine about she has 40,000 followers on LinkedIn, and now she has 500 on Instagram. So she's like, how does Instagram work? Is it I just connect with people? I'm like, nope, you got to buy your way in. You're gonna spend hundreds of dollars on ads just to get some like likes and like followers who are gonna leave. It's like, it's almost, I'm trying to explain it to her like it's a good platform to use, and then I'm like, I don't know if it is. Like, I mean, it's really hard. It's really hard to grow. It's honestly, it's difficult.
Yeah. And that's why I also still really have a soft spot for Facebook. I just started a Facebook group called Making the Brand Groupies for my podcast, where we talk about pop culture. And like I said, we'll talk about Tiger King, we'll talk about boy bands, we'll talk about whatever, but we will also bring it back to marketing and keep it focused. So it's kind of like this community of fellow fangirls, if you will, and you can share links more freely. That's why I like it.
Yeah, Facebook groups are great. They were, I mean, I just like my start on Facebook originated from just like obviously the normal like 2009, 2010. But when I really started using it is when I started selling things, and I bought and sold cars for a long time, and I was a mechanic in my past life, aka like 2 years ago. But so I was all, I bought, sold, fixed, flipped cars. So that was huge for me to go on those groups and be able to buy and sell things. And I still do it to this day. Just I know people who make a living off of that. So I mean, wow, Facebook groups is like, I feel like it's been around so long, but it's extremely still untapped. And I think the next level to that is the paid group and the Patreon type of subscription, $5 a month content model. What do you think about the future of content being people subscribing to certain influencers, whereas they would never be able to get that content on another platform? Like, what do you feel about that?
For me, I have trouble wrapping my head around what would constitute a paid piece of content, that's something that's exclusive enough for your membership community versus something that I guess is not as valuable that you would just share to the masses. Because I've thought about starting my own type of membership community, but I'm like, what is worthy of being paid for, and what feels exclusive versus what should I just offer to everyone? I don't know where to draw that line. What do you?
Right. No, you're right. And this is what my friend did. Two of my friends who, one of them who I linked up with about a year ago, who started a marketing agency. Where we do a lot of Instagram. It's mostly just Instagram. Any Instagram promotion you see from me, that's based on that company. But he started a mastermind group of people who are, like our age, just entrepreneurs who have all different types of businesses. So, we have like, bong stores, and then we have, all these social media marketers, Facebook marketers, me creating podcasts. And so it's a group of like, and it's $50 one-time fee to buy into it. And it's a Discord group chat. But then the value is we have private seminars with business leaders who, some of them are free and some of them you have to pay. But every like couple weeks we have, this leader, whereas you pay $50 one time and you get this access. And so I think, to answer like kind of your question, is, can you give access? Now you can sell access, right? So that I think is the best value, that a paywall, behind the paywall. I think that's the best value, is the access. I can talk to this guy, whereas he won't answer my DM, but now I'm on a Zoom call with him. So that, and then as well as, I guess, just, the really nitty gritty content. But it's true. It's like, how do you know what you're going to get? Until you're getting it. And as a musician, I want to, like, it's hard because like my fans have to buy my merch, and like, I don't think they always have $40 to spend on a sweatshirt or something, so but then I'm like, do I charge them $3 a month? It's like, I don't know who's going to do that. And then what do I give them? Do I give them songs? But I want to release the songs. It's like, it's the same rabbit hole where like you were kind of looking at it too, of like, I'm like, damn, how is this really? But I think the mastermind groups and the access might be the way
that's
to do
a
it.
really simple way of putting it, because it's like you probably have a ton of DMs of people just asking to pick your brain, like, okay, that time is money, you want to pick my brain, you can join my membership.
He has 100,000 followers, the other dude has 50,000. I only got like probably 5,000 collectively. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like when you have like, I get DMs like every week about that, like podcast creation, music, whatever. But like
Mm-hmm.
when you're at that level, especially too, where
Yeah.
you can't even go through it. It would take you all day to go through your DMs, like especially then, like, and then you
Yeah.
automate it too. So you literally get $50 and it's automated. You don't even have to do anything at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
Access. Like I said, I feel like that's a really simple way of putting it. It's a good distinction. I like that a lot.
yeah, I just I didn't even think of it like in that nature, but now that I'm kind of going through,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's what these people are doing. Like, and so I was talking, I got interviewed on this podcast about like the future of, I think it's called Humans Now and Then. It's with this woman named Rebecca Scott, and she's like a futurist technologist. And
Oh.
she wanted me to, yeah, it was like, I was like, hey, I don't know like technology, so I don't know how this is gonna, I'm just a rapper, but we kind of angled it on like the future of audio and
Mm-hmm.
AI and like using Google, using transcriptions for their SEO and stuff like that. And like,
Yeah.
so like I have been like thinking about all this recently of like, what is the future of all this? And my friend said, oh, it's always going to be a pay to play model, because all these influencers and all these musicians and the highest levels of everything, all the business leaders are going to combine and create like membership, like groups all together. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
a no brainer. And
Yeah.
then they can just do that en masse, but then that's kind of monopolistic. So it's like, I don't know, but
Well, that reminds me of streaming. It's like how many different streaming services, like we have Netflix, we have Hulu, we have now Quibi and Disney Plus. It's like we should have just paid for cable. Like that's that's what this is turning into. It's like, are they all going to combine and you just pay monthly to get access to all of these? You have HBO, like there's just so many different streaming services. It's almost like a bubble that's going to burst eventually.
it's the business bubble. It's like what happens every time. It's like
Mm-hmm.
Amazon. It's so crazy. How crazy is it to think that Amazon is gonna like go bankrupt one day? It's like Amazon's gonna fail one day. Like, cause Sears failed. Like Walmart will too. Like it's like, maybe I'm wrong, but like just judging by the cycle of business,
Mm-hmm.
like it's
Mm-hmm.
true. And like, yeah, and then you have all these competitors and the models changing. Like used to
Yeah.
be like what Gary Vee says, whatever. This is the TV now, I think he says, and the radio is the TV or something.
Yeah,
So,
like
but
Facebook is ABC, Twitter is
yeah,
NBC.
which is, hey, I mean, if you want to talk advertising, like that's true too. I mean, how can they get TV ads? How is there ROI on TV ads right now?
Yeah.
I would never watch a commercial. I will turn it off, mute it. I'll be on my
Yeah,
phone.
I know. It's really the only time I really watch commercials is if I'm watching the news. And right now it's really interesting to see how many COVID-19 oriented commercials are being aired right now, like Publix and Ford, all these different companies are airing commercials just saying, hey, we're here for you. You know, we're going to get through this
How do you
together.
feel about that marketing in this time?
Um, I feel like we're past the awkward period where everyone shouldn't really be marketing and everyone's turning off their posts and everyone's going dark. I feel like we feel like this is here to stay a little bit, and now it's just time to uplift everyone and just ask your audience how you can help. As long as brands are presenting their content in a way that is truly just helpful and sensitive, I think you're okay, as long as it doesn't really just feel like advertising. It just feels more genuine.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. If you can maintain that, genuine, authenticity, and that's
Yeah.
how I'm looking at it too. Of like my business, I mean, I hate like knock on wood, but I'm doing better now than I've ever. I didn't have a business before, now I have a business. So it's
Yeah.
like before, 2 minutes ago, I didn't have one. So
Hmm.
like I don't know. For me, it's really different. And I got the last 2 or 3 podcasts I did, or maybe the last 2 podcasts, and maybe the last like 3 calls I was on. You know,
Hmm.
podcast or not, like people aren't even talking about it anymore. Like I'm not even
Yeah.
like I I was just on a call with a guy for 45 minutes today, and we're brainstorming his podcast, and we didn't say a word about it. And
Yeah.
I was like, you know what, like it all is about what you process and like how
Hmm.
if you think it's everywhere and it's crazy and it's
Yeah.
changing everything, then it is. But if you
Yeah.
don't, but
Someone
yeah,
like,
advertising is interesting right now.
yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine who runs Facebook ads. He works for an agency and does paid social for a variety of different clients. And they all kind of approached him saying, all right, now we should be turning off all of our ads, right? And he's like, absolutely not. Now is the time to keep your ads and keep your business top of mind, because when this is all over, we're all going to want to go out. We're going to want to eat at certain places. We're going to want to go back to the amusement parks and all these different places. And you need to stay top of mind for people. So it's like you said, it kind of in a weird way is the best time to advertise and just keep your brand top of mind.
I will say this, people are listening to less podcasts just because they're not driving and not going to the gym and not going to the store and all that, which is, I, as a podcaster, this is my whole life. I'm like, I would think my first reaction would be, wow, that sucks. But my reaction now is create. And if you want to, put it out because there's more eyes on it. But, you know, when it comes to the micro content, there's 30% more people looking at that now. When it comes to the long form, you know, I think it's down, but I'd say double down on the creation.
Right. And the great thing,
don't stop running your ads. They're cheaper now anyway. So
right. Yeah. I mean, and the great thing about podcasting and YouTube really is your content doesn't have a short shelf life. Like someone might listen to your most recent episode and then eventually round back to your oldest episode. Like it'll just keep circulating. So
do you listen to your podcast?
I listened to it right when I first post it, and then I kind of cringe listening to myself, but
it's a trip. I was chilling, I was hanging out, and I was like, I don't want to watch Netflix or anything. I want to just like, all right, I'll go like try to find clips from my podcast. And I go back 2 years ago and I'm like, oh God, I can't even watch this right now. But then 2 years from now, I'll probably watch like the ones I made last week and be like, I can't even watch those. Yeah. It's like, come on. That's crazy. But like, speaking of your podcast, do you want to kind of just like tell the listeners, you know, what it's all about and, you know, where they can find it?
So, absolutely. Thank you for that opportunity. It's called Making the Brand, which depending on how old you are, you may or may not get the reference. There was a show in the early 2000s called Making the Band, where they would audition and try to put together the next big boy band. So I flipped that a little bit and called it Making the Brand. But yeah, I really just talk about whatever is timely in pop culture, and not even just timely stuff. I talk about a lot of nostalgic things, but I'll take any topic and try to relay it back to marketing. So, I did an episode, for instance, if you've seen the movie Legally Blonde, I did an episode about what people can learn about personal branding.
I saw that.
Kids. Like, or I just interviewed a friend of mine who's a copywriter, and we did a whole episode about Boy Meets World. Tell me you've seen Boy Meets World.
Classic. I got you.
Okay.
Yep.
Woo! And
I'm on the edge of that, but I still tie into there's still a lot I have to see, but I got
reruns, you got it.
Yep.
And we talked at length about how brands or how sitcoms are doing all these reboots, and how you can apply that to your brand by sharing nostalgic content, and just how you can reinvent your brand while maintaining the essence of who you are and not losing your audience. So that was really fascinating. And yeah, there's just always something new going on in pop culture. So it keeps me on my toes with what to talk about, but I'm always looking for those ties back to marketing and branding. So it's a lot of fun.
There we go. Yeah. I'm a listener. I remember listening, you know, right when we connected on Instagram. I was like, this is cool, man. I really like this. Like, and it's nice, and like just put it on in the morning. Like it's not like a 2-hour episode. You're just kind of like concise, like, hey, this is the like fun stuff. This is how it ties in. This is the lesson we can learn. Like, so yeah, to all listeners and watchers, like definitely Making the Brand on all platforms, I assume.
Yeah.
You can find it anywhere. But yeah, this has been a great conversation. I really liked everything. Oh, I could go for another couple hours, so I have to.
I know. I was gonna say one more thing.
Yeah, you can plug. By the way, you can plug anything you want. You could say, tell them anything you want. This is why we're here. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's so interesting that you rap and that, you know, you're so into music, because I think one of the most helpful ways to approach content creation is to entertain. So I feel like that's really where I've found my sweet spot with my podcast, is because I'm educating, but through entertainment. Like, I'm not bringing up these textbook examples and, examples that are decades old. I'm talking about, movies and music and just ways that make learning fun. Sorry to sound so cheesy, but the more you can look at content as an opportunity to entertain people versus just to throw information at them, you're going to be better off.
I agree too, 100%. And I'm always been trying to mix that too. And now that I'm building out this
Yeah.
business and trying to
Mm-hmm.
okay, I can't just make this normal run of the
Yeah.
mill inform content.
No.
Yeah. And even providing the entertainment value and the information at the same time, just like you do. That's the sweet. Yeah, you're right. That's the sweet spot.
Yeah. And I think it makes you more likable, more respected. It's like people see you as an
More like a
equal.
real person too, because I think a lot of that gets lost too, is oh, I'm just trying so, and companies do this too, they're just trying so hard to make people understand what they do. It's like, I
Mm-hmm.
just want to know why and who, and then
Yeah.
I'll care about what later,
Mm-hmm.
but and
Yeah.
you do that really well, and I think,
Oh, thank you.
and how you combine your brand with your personality and what you like in pop culture,
Mhm.
it's really unique, and it is refreshing, and
Thank you. Thank
so
you
I
so
will
much.
continue to be a fan, and follow you. And what's
Likewise.
your Instagram?
My
If your name right.
Instagram is Brianne, Brianne, 2K, the number 2, letter K. My website is briannefleming.com. That's Fleming with 1M. But yeah, that's where you can find me. You could join the Facebook group. It's called Making the Brand Groupies. If you want to fangirl out together, we could always do that. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
Awesome. There you go. All the information for those watching, listening is in the show notes below. Thank you so much, Brianne, for this episode. I really appreciate you coming on BOPCAST.
Likewise, yeah, I'll have to have you on Making the Brand one time too. So let me know what piece of music or piece of pop culture you're most passionate about, and we'll make it happen.
Oh, I'm so down. Oh, I got so many ideas. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. This is another episode of BOPCAST. I got to say it, as I always do, we are on every single podcast platform, even the ones nobody uses. Got the music podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all the ones, even those ones that your cousin used that to download some illegally. I bet I'm on there too. So thank you so much for listening. It's been Brianne Fleming for another BOPCAST.
Thank you, guys.